Welcome back, everybody, here at Michigan Football, the voice of college football, to another episode of the Michigan Wolverines call-in show live. Do not adjust your TV. This is not TJ. My name's John Diadamo. And if those of you who don't know me, I host the Tuesday night show, Michigan Wolverines Live, here at the voice of college football. TJ, unfortunately, was called away due to an emergency. He'll be back next week, and he can share what he feels comfortable sharing there. You can follow me on Twix at John Diadamo, which is also, the link is right there in the chat. And before I bring on my guest, a couple of quick reminders. You can call the show and get in the queue right now. We're going to go through a few topics first, but then we're going to take your calls, and you can share. If you're a Michigan fan, we'll take your call. If you're a Buckeye, we'll take your call. If you're a Penn State fan, we'll take your call. Even if you're an SEC fan, we'll take your call. If you have a thought about Michigan football, we'll take your call. We do want to remind everybody that we have brand new YouTube memberships. So at the bottom of the screen right now, you're going to see the charter members. These are the first YouTube members. We've got the leaders and best tier that Moose is in. We've got the those who stay will be champions. And we thank Roy Messer and ZZM. And I believe that was a gifted one also from Moose. So Moose has been at the front of the efforts here. And we appreciate you and anyone else who appreciates the content that we put out there all the time. Our 2 shows a week minimum, and you want to get more involved, and you want to be part of the community, and really thank those of us who are doing these shows, and everything else. Go ahead and sign up for a tier, and you basically can just pick whatever you're more comfortable with financially. But $2.99, that's not so bad. So here's the link to become a member. And yes, the emojis, you get them when you become a member. So you're going to see a Michigan logo emoji, a Connor Stallions emoji, Ohio State score emoji, a winged helmet, and a Go Blue. And those are the ones we have right now. As we get more memberships, we can add more emojis. So the more memberships we get, YouTube lets us add more emojis, and we have a bunch more in mind as we grow. So go ahead and become a member at Michigan Football, the voice of college football, starting at just $2.99. And then, yes, please like this video, subscribe, and share with a friend. You can also send us a super chat to make sure that your comment or question is read on screen. The other thing to keep in mind is that anybody who calls in, if you are a member of our channel, you get priority. So if you're a member and you're paying, to be a member, and you call the show, you get priority, at least tonight. That's how I'm going to do it. And then we'll discuss from there. But if you're a YouTube member, you get priority. And then everybody else, and we encourage everybody to call in. But those are our housekeeping notes. And of course, we have our Tuesday show every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. But we also have some additional content, which you can see regularly. And if you have been following and subscribing to the Voice of College Football Michigan channel, you've probably seen our guest, Cliff Richardson,
hey, everybody.
Who hosts Point a Minute. Cliff, thanks for joining us tonight. Go Blue.
Oh, go Blue. You're welcome. Happy to be here. I think we're going to have a good time talking about some Michigan football. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So share with the class where people can find you.
Let's see. Well, Mac and I do a show right here on the Michigan football, Voice of College Football, called the Point a Minute Show, which you can see right there. We also have our own YouTube channel called the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show, and I think Mac is in the chat, so maybe he can post a link to that. You can find me on Twix. I like calling it Twix now. That's a fun way to say that. DAWG, Team Rivalry. That's Data Analyst with Grit. It's a play on words in a couple of different ways. Clifford, the Big Red Dog, being myself, and I am a programmer, so I work with data and I have to analyze it. So I am a data analyst with grit. That's how I like to pull that together. Otherwise, I think that's everywhere I am. I'm not, I don't do a whole lot of social media, just YouTube and Twix, and that's about it.
So I do want to give everybody a heads up that we're having a traditional Florida storm right now. There is absolutely a possibility my internet shuts down. So if that happens, Cliff, you're going to be impromptu guest host for a couple of minutes,
Right.
if need be. But yeah, it just started, and if you got anybody who lives in Florida knows these wonderful storms that happen anywhere from April to October, where it's just pouring down buckets all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah.
So we'll do our best to keep rolling here. But we wanted to have the show and keep it going, so here we are. All right. So obviously, just 2 days ago, we had the privilege of having Micah Ka'apana here with us, running back, and he talked about a lot of things. And if you didn't get to see that show yet, didn't get to see that interview, I strongly recommend you check it out. Really informative, gets behind the scenes of some of the things that players deal with on a regular basis and what they go through. And the reason I bring this up is because he has played an active role in recruiting. So in addition to going to prom and going through Ann Arbor orientation and all the things that you do as a student that we all did when we went to Michigan, those of us who went, there's usually a summer orientation where you learn about the school, go check, go into the dorms and all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, he's doing 6 a.m. workouts with Tress. Meanwhile, he's recruiting for us. And he still took the time to come on the show. And so he has been working on the recruiting angle with his Bishop Gorman teammates and trying to get some Bishop Gorman people over with this last official visit that happened last weekend. But we have heard that there are two recruits that we are feeling so strongly about that we are saying, lock it in. And the first is a guy named Jalen Williams. You may have heard of him if you have been watching the show because TJ's talked about him. And he's an interesting recruit. Obviously, he's one of the top recruits in Illinois, number 5 or number 6, depending on where you go. High 4-star defensive lineman. Lou Esposito has really been doing a fantastic job. He's 100% crystal balled to Michigan right now. And obviously 6'6", 265. And we're going to watch a little bit of his huddle tape so you can see kind of what he does. But Cliff, I mean, just from your quick scan of Jalen, what's your impression on this guy, and who do you think we're going to get? Once he decides to commit.
Well, he's big, that's for sure. 6'6", 265. I find it's kind of interesting to me. I'm not sure if On3 is a little bit behind or what, but On3 has him at 96.5%. 247 Sports has him at 100% for Michigan. I can hear the music on the video. That's kind of loud. But yeah, 4-star with a 91 rating. 91.38 247 composite. I have not seen the tape on him. Well, you got the tape going. Let's see here.
Yeah, so really, and they do a nice job of putting the arrows on there so you can kind of see, what they're doing here. They're just, he's just muscling through. He's
breaking right through
a lineman, breaking through and just coming after,
knocking guys down.
Kind of an edge rusher almost in some of these. But that's what happens when you're just that much bigger and stronger than most of the others that
nice.
you're facing against at that level. But I think even at even at the college level, it takes a year or two to get to a starting position at Michigan on D line, because we're so stacked at D line that he's probably going to sit a year and rotate in. But he'll probably have some time against some of the opponents that we face, because they do rotate players, number one, and number two, you've got some games where you're going to want to rest the starters, so he's probably going to have some playing time this year, if he comes here and have an opportunity. Yeah, it's really
he's
impressive
shucking guys right off, and he's pivoting on a dime there. That's not bad for a D lineman there. He's got there was one shot in here. He's got almost a Mason Graham move. He threw one guy down and then chased down the quarterback.
Yeah, he's really impressive, and I have to say, Lou Esposito, there's been a lot of criticism of the recruiting that Michigan's done as of now, and I understand why. Not a lot of commits yet under Sharon Moore, really just one. So they're going to need to start cooking in June here. But I think Jalen Williams is really close at this point. And so I would call him a definitive lock for sure.
Yeah,
and then
247's got him locked. 24/7's got him locked in.
Yeah, the next one is a TJ lock, which I agree with as well, based on what I've seen. So let's switch gears to Maxwell. So Maxwell Roy went to St. Joseph's. 270 pounds, a little bit not as tall, 6'3", but he hails from Philly. At least that's where he went to high school.
Yeah,
and so he knows the good cheesesteaks. Number 4 player in Pennsylvania, and 91 rankings. So again, a high 4-star player. And what this tells me, Cliff, when they're facing teams like Ohio State. That's one of the ones that Maxwell Roy is going up, and that's one of the opponents for getting him. But these are big schools that are going after these two, right? So I think that's notable, in general. So like the other one looks like we're facing off against Tennessee, who has been able to snag some recruits. Nebraska, Dylan Raiola. Anybody? And then and Purdue even has gotten a couple of good ones. So there are some programs on these offer lists that have a very strong NIL program. So if we see these two committing, then I do think that I think it's fair to assume some NIL is in the works. And, there's been a lot of discussion the last couple of weeks about this, Cliff. And it's, I've been hearing a lot of conflicting reports in the media and from the official sources. But I think it's pretty safe to assume some money is being offered at this point. Now, I don't think that they're planning to start outbidding Kentucky. If Kentucky wants to pay a crap load of money for a player that hasn't shown anything in college yet, let's let him do it. And then there's this thing called the transfer portal, which Michigan is extraordinary. It's, I think, one of the most effective at using the transfer portal at all levels of the sport, from the very top to like Coastal Carolina or, a school like that, finding a diamond in the rough. So, Cliff, I kind of want to get your thought on that, like in terms of kind of Michigan's approach to recruiting, and like what you're kind of seeing from your corner.
Well, and to be fair, so I have more of a higher level view, I guess, of recruiting. What I'm seeing here is they're getting some good sized guys on the lines in those trenches there, which is good. I I remember, so I have to go back because I remember like the 97 team. And I remember when they were talking about the stats on the 97 team, that it was a big deal that the O-line and the D-line averaged 300 pounds per player, obviously. And so I've always kind of had that in my mind, that your average D lineman needs to be around 300 pounds. So when they come up with these guys who are 270, 275, 6.5 feet tall, I mean, these are beasts. This is going to be, Michigan is stacking up a D line now year after year, where you've just got a brick wall that you're facing. And that I really like. The fact that they're starting to pull in more 4 stars. I could be wrong on this. Like I said, I'm kind of high level on the recruiting, but it seems to me Michigan hasn't in the past done a great job at getting 4 and 5 stars. It seems like they sort of trickle in. They get a lot of 3 stars, but that being the case, obviously the last 3 years have been fantastic with those kind of numbers. But is that, I mean, have you noticed that? Is that, am I right in thinking that, or are they pretty good at getting the 4 and 5 stars?
4 stars, yes.
All right.
And I think 5 stars, it's varied based on the year, right? Because historically, Michigan usually is good for maybe a couple of 5 stars a year, maybe at least 1 or 2. The fact that there's been 0 the last year and a half, I think that is reflective of the NIL situation. Yeah. Even Blake Corum said that he wouldn't have come to Michigan in the NIL era.
All right.
So these, would Michigan have gotten Donovan Edwards if there was an NIL? Would Michigan have gotten JJ McCarthy if there was, so like Will Johnson is a different case because of the legacy there. Yeah. But yeah, I think that the team would have looked very different.
Yeah.
If NIL, as it is now, had been a thing 3 or 4 years ago. And would Michigan have won the Natty? I don't think so.
Yeah. And that, I think, is what we're really changing into here, is that we have to get out of the mindset, or I guess, yeah, I think we have to get out of the mindset of thinking that, guys come to Michigan for tradition, for loyalty. They always wanted to play for Michigan. That may not be the case going forward now. The regionalness of college football is gone. It's obviously national now. If you live in Michigan, you might not necessarily want to play for Michigan. You just go to wherever they're going to give you the most money, or wherever you're the best fit, rather than sort of defaulting to your home school. I'm kind of sad to see that go, but what are you going to do? It's gone.
Yeah, we're headed to semi-pro, man.
I know. It's officially the NFL minor leagues now. So, but that's fine. And we get some good football out of it. I'm okay with that. But yeah, you're right. They're going to have to, Michigan. And they've hired the NIL coordinator now. So hopefully that's going to start coming together. And I think you're right with these two guys, Maxwell and Jalen. I think NIL is probably going to be good for them. They're going to come in probably, well, let's see, if they're 25, so they're probably going to come in as the NIL really gets organized, because I imagine for the next year it's going to be, what do we do? How do we figure this out? What's the NCAA going to do? What's the real end result of this settlement that just happened? And then probably
that's when the 20 to 22 million per school comes into effect in 2025, right? So yeah, that's when you'll start, I think, to see a really big uptick once Michigan is legally, fully, and completely allowed to just give money out.
Yeah. Yeah. And how much you want to get into this, I don't know, but these guys, they deserve something. They deserve some kind of compensation. They're putting their bodies on the line, their careers on the line, and the schools and the networks are making all the money. So they should get something. And we'll just see how it all shakes out. I know when these things happen, whenever you have a big change like this, there's always that chaos at the beginning. Nobody really knows what's going on. Nobody really knows what the rules are. So they're just sort of, flying by the seat of their pants. And then hopefully next year and the year after, that's when it'll settle in. And it won't just be, we're going to throw the most money at you. It'll be, well, we've got, this amount of money. You're going to get, this situation, this setup. maybe there's more to it than just the money. Maybe they're setting them up for the future rather than just right now. Which hopefully, I mean, no, that's what Harbaugh wanted. Harbaugh was hoping that, he could show these guys how to deal with agents, how to market themselves without getting used up and abused by their agents, which is kind of why I wish Harbaugh was still there, but that's another story.
Yeah. Harbaugh definitely did advocate a lot for compensation for players, and
well, not only that, but well handling the players so that they wouldn't get used by their agents.
Yeah, and so we do have to keep in mind one thing. Michigan tuition is high. So Michigan, at this point, I'm thinking that out of state, you're looking at somewhere around $55,000 to $60,000 a year. So with that, and it might be even higher. But you multiply that, they're getting a scholarship worth about $200,000 to $250,000. We have to remember that.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, they cover your housing. So a salary of like $50,000 a year becomes extremely livable if you don't have to worry about rent, you don't have to worry about paying tuition, and you're probably going to get a car too. So you're getting those things. So then, a lot of them are getting a car. So you have all of that covered. So even if you're a backup, whatever, and you're making $50,000 for the year, and all of that other stuff is covered, you're going to be living pretty good. I mean, you could go to the Chop House and stuff pretty often.
Yeah, and there are some decent neighborhoods around Ann Arbor that you could even lower your expenses a little bit and do a little bit better there too. Yeah, I live in one of those neighborhoods just outside Ann Arbor.
Yeah, it's something. And Ferris, who hosts our Smash the Numbers series, is giving his math here. He's saying $58,000 a year for all football players, and for other sports too, even women, even women's sports. Women's sports are very important. Okay, so $58,000 a year across the board. I think that's a great. You'd be doing pretty well.
Oh yeah,
because of all the other stuff that you get covered, and then of course the big people like the quarterback and your starting wide receiver. They're not going to be doing $58,000 a year. They're going to be in the six figures or the millions. And Bryce Underwood allegedly made $5 million in cash and $2 million in incentives and extras. And that's what you're looking at for a very top tier quarterback. Jalen Rashada had a failed $13 million NIL deal. So you're looking at, for a very high level quarterback, somewhere like $5-7 million. Maybe more. But even a long snapper, could be making $58,000.
But now, if you map that out in reverse, so let's say JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy probably started playing football in the 6th grade, 7th grade,
something like that. Yeah.
Something like Pee Wee football back there. So he has been training. He had been training for 12 years, let's say, before he got to Michigan, and then had a year of training where he didn't get to play, and then was Cade's backup, and then obviously took over. So in those terms, the amount of time that these guys put into this sport to be able to be this good, it's almost like you start to look at the 58,000 and you go, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when you're putting in that kind of effort and that kind of time, it's a lot of money for an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old, but still, for the amount of work they put in, I think they probably deserve it.
You guys in the chat have my mouth watering. T.O.
talking about food.
I just had a diet dinner. Okay, and I'm hearing about mountains of nachos at T.O.'s. So T.O.'s was the place that we always used to go after work. at like 1 a.m. We would close the cafe. We would go over and we would go to Tio's, and it was the freaking best, man.
Yep.
I
I think I've been to Tio's
I'm with
once.
you.
Yeah.
I'm with
I'm
you,
just
Mike Ford.
noticing there's no love for Ann Arbor's own Domino's Pizza here anywhere.
Oh. Cottage Inn. Okay, so Moose at Cottage Inn.
Cottage Inn is good
Yeah.
pizza. Yeah.
Cottage Inn is good, and they have the restaurant sit down that has like the Italian food and stuff that's pretty solid too.
Yep.
Yeah, Zingerman's is like what everybody said. You know, that's like but their Reuben is so good, out of this world.
Nice.
I love their Reuben.
Oh man, where is the Zingerman's in Ann Arbor now? I remember there being one over on Jackson and Maple, but it's been gone for a while.
Yeah, so I know that they have a couple
South of Briarwood Mall there. Okay.
Different things. Yeah.
Yeah. All
that
right.
Sounds right.
I'll have to check that out. I used to like Zingerman's.
Yeah, it should definitely. Okay. Well, we've had. If you would like to sponsor Voice of College Football, and you're one of those places that we just mentioned, go ahead and email MarkRogersTV@gmail.com. All right.
Hey, we could do a conference thing. We could get everybody from Voice of College Football to show up at Zingerman's, and we could do a thing there.
Absolutely. Well, Cliff, we actually have a caller.
Oh, all
right. So we actually have Jackson Johnson, who we call Double J, Alabama fan, also has his own show, The Jacksonian. Jackson, thanks for coming back.
Hey, Jackson.
It's great to be back. Thank you for having me on, gents. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
It's a little warm in here, but otherwise I'm fine.
Well, there we go. Got a little something today. It's that time of the year again.
Hey.
Yep.
I got one too.
Right.
Look at that. You guys could just talk all about that on a show for sure. What say you today, Jackson?
About what's going on with Michigan? Well,
yeah. What do you want to talk about? Yep.
Well, I noticed that JD Piquel from On3 has been talking about how you guys are under the radar this season. Tell you something, he's right.
Yeah. JD is he did a video on this for those who haven't seen it, and it's pretty good. Talking about Michigan being under the radar, and when ESPN is ranking Michigan 12th, because they just released that, and Michigan is 12th right now according to ESPN in the Power Index. So I would agree with JD that, you know, in that context, Michigan's definitely an under the radar, because with the defense that we're bringing back, okay, Michigan brings back a ton of talent on defense. Wink Martindale, who basically pioneered the Raven-style system that Mike McDonald and Jesse Minner ran and were so successful at in 21 through 23. The only question mark is offense and who the quarterback is. But it sounds like Alex Orji's emerging. So and the O-line is a question mark too, because like 5 or 6 of them got drafted. So but I think we got to have a little faith in Sharon Moore and Grant Newsome, and the people that they've assembled on offense to knock it out of the park. So I feel like 12th is a little bit low.
Yeah, it's just anybody that's put Michigan at 12th. I mean, good grief. I mean, at least make sure they're in the top 4 or like top 7. I mean, good grief. Don't be putting them 12. I can tell. I think ESPN's bleeding money when they're saying stuff like that.
Yeah. It's we did just win the national title.
Michigan? Are you kidding me?
Tennessee.
Oh my God. They're pitiful on the road. They're pitiful. Well,
they're saying, look at this. They're giving us on average 8.3 wins to 3.9 losses, which is laughable. I don't think we're going any lower than 9-3 with the schedule. And probably even some Buckeyes that I know have Michigan at 10-2.
Oh man,
I can see 10-2. I honestly think the only question marks in my mind are Texas and Oregon. I think Michigan has Ohio State's number. I'm looking at 10-2.
Good grief! I mean,
Yeah,
Tennessee
and
up,
Oregon at
Tennessee above.
2. Yeah, some of these are just really questionable. Oklahoma at 8. There's
Tennessee
some,
can't even beat Florida and Gainesville.
yeah. I think some. I mean, I understand that this is a numerically based system with a lot of factors involved, but sometimes you got to look a little beyond that, because when you're putting Oklahoma 8, Penn State 6, who basically hasn't won a big game other than a depleted Utah. Yeah, it's just some of these are pretty questionable. I have no issue with Georgia, and I have no issue with Texas until we play them. So I get why Texas is at where they are. But Oregon, that's a head scratcher. And Penn State and Oklahoma and Tennessee, those are head scratchers.
I mean, I get like Texas being, but like I get that, but Tennessee above them, oh god.
The only thing I can come up with for Michigan being at 12 is that they're accounting for some kind of hiccup from an administration switchover, which I imagine isn't unexpected. Even like I tried to look back at like what happened when Gary Mueller came in after Bo retired, and there was a slight hiccup, but he made it up quickly in the second year, and then of course in the fourth year he had other problems. But
Penn State can't even win the big game against Michigan or Ohio State.
Penn State gets overrated every year. I don't know why. They never
because
go.
They
They never
the
do
best
better than
communications team in the business is why, and James Franklin has the best agent in the business, and that's why you keep hearing they do a fantastic job of buddying and cozying up to the media. You'll see some of these shows with exclusive interviews with James Franklin and exclusive interviews with Penn State people. And then that's when some of these stories come out about, watch out for Drew Eller for the Heisman that we heard last offseason and some of that silliness. Now with the potential controversy with James Franklin intervening in the medical stuff, that may result in at least a suspension.
Much different questions in those interviews now.
Yeah, it won't be like, what's your secret to recruiting, or what's your, it won't be softballs anymore.
Nope.
You would hope.
Yeah.
So it looks like some of these people at ESPN do not do their research. They do not do their research.
Mike, you're going to need to rewind the tape to 12 months ago, because it was very glowing, and so yeah. So Mark actually says, I am not so sure that Penn State underachieves versus its preseason rankings. So if you look at what they have Penn State going at, I agree with that part, because they have Penn State going 10.1 to 2.3 wins losses, which makes sense from that. Like that piece makes sense to me. Their schedule, they do not play Michigan, so 10-2 seems reasonable. But yeah, I can't see it. But we'll let the season play out and go from there.
But they just seem to be kind of stuck. I mean, Penn State could have a 10-win season, every single year, and that's like as far as they get. You would think at some point that they would break through. I mean, James Franklin is coming up on what? Isn't this year 12 at this point?
He's in his 11th season.
11th season. So after 11 seasons,
around there, yeah,
they've won the Big Ten once or twice.
Once. 2016.
Yeah. So in that amount of time, winning 10-win seasons, only winning the Big Ten once, it's like that's it. He's reached his maximum. He's not going any farther unless he makes some serious changes.
Now, I will say one move that they made, which I think is interesting, is hiring Tom Allen as defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
who I think we can agree, really wasn't the best at hiring after 2020. He made some great offensive hires and with Kalen DeBoer. And obviously he brought in Penix, and they had a really positive 2019, 2020. But then after that, they weren't able to replace some of these pieces. But but as a defensive coordinator, I like that hire because he only has to focus on that side of the ball now.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think Tom Allen will be good in that spot.
Well,
we've seen that a lot of times.
Penn
Even like
State
Brady
does-
Hoke. Brady Hoke was a much better DC than a head coach.
Oh, Brady Hoke was a disaster as head coach.
Exactly.
Like, good
But
grief.
he was a great defensive coordinator. He was a great DC.
Because like when Michigan beat Ohio
yeah, I think he was
State
the DC.
in Brady Hoke's first year, it wasn't really anything to brag about. I mean, it was a pitiful Ohio State team.
Sure.
It's not like it wasn't like 2021 to now.
Mark is giving us some more clarity on the 12 rating, and talking about the change at head coach and QB. And I'll give you the change in QB. I'll give you that. No matter who they go with, if they go with Alex Orji, he did play snaps in meaningful games, right? If you go with Davis Warren, not so much. And so that I do agree with that one. Alex Orji is the only one that's had any type of real starting game time against major opponents. And even that was like, one drive here, one play there. It's not like he was in the game, for half the game. He was in the game for a couple of plays.
Well, JJ only played half games.
True. Head coach. That I wonder how they factored that in, given that Sharon Moore had 4 games as interim head coach last year. And it's a little bit different, Sharon Moore taking that role than, let's say, Jed Fish had gotten hired or Brian Kelly had gotten hired, and there would have been a wholesale change of culture, staff, a player exodus much larger than the one that we saw. So that part, I want to dive more into that with Ferris too. Like, okay, how does change in head coach really apply there when Sharon Moore had 4 games as interim? But I understand. I understand the QB one for sure.
I'm finding it interesting that. Oh, go ahead, Jackson.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens in 2024. It's almost. It just feels it's coming sooner than we think.
I was just going to say that I find it interesting on QB that now that Tuttle sounds like he's healed up, it's been Orji and Tuttle have been the discussion now rather than Davis Warren.
Yeah, no, Tuttle. I see him as a very strong backup, as in he's there to help keep things in line in the quarterback room. He's been playing for 7 years, 6 or 7 years, somewhere in there. And
he's going to retire pretty soon.
And so experience means something, in terms of team cohesion, in terms of inspiring. He's going to be one of the players that really try to get people, motivated and take a leadership role in that locker room because he's been around.
Right.
So he's got that kind of experience there. So I could see him being a very successful backup. But I still think Alex Orji has been positioned for the role. He was positioned for the role last year when he was. I don't think you put a player like Alex Orji in versus Ohio State, Alabama, and Washington if you don't plan on starting him. I just don't see it. Like JJ McCarthy was allowed to play against Georgia in 2021. So I think he's the I'd say the starter favorite at this point. If Davis Warren or Tuttle overtake him, that's incredible, and that would be very noteworthy. And I would support them being starter too, because if they're able to overtake, as JJ did with Cade McNamara, they're able to overtake the definitive favorite, then that's noteworthy.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see Orji get that QB1 position, just from the sole fact that he looks like he can take some solid hits. And if those guys break through the line, which it doesn't look like anybody's going to be breaking through Michigan's D line or O line, but if they do, I feel like they're going to bounce off of Orji. Just because he reminds me of a tank.
Action.
Say that again?
I can't wait to see him in action this season.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think Orji can do it for sure.
I agree. And Jackson, I feel like we've talked about this before, but with obviously the comp with Jalen Milroe, and you've watched Jalen Milroe play and kind of grow all of last year from, kind of that first couple of games where, they thought about they tried out, they tried him for one game, then they tried out Buckner. Remember that? And they tried out some of the other quarterbacks against, what was it, FAU or USF or one of those types of
South
teams.
Florida.
That was it.
Oh God, we were pitiful against South Florida.
How notable was it that he went from that to winning Nick Saban's trust with his ability to run the football and throw it? And can Alex Orji kind of emulate that at Michigan, do you think?
It could happen. I mean, it's, we saw Jalen Milroe learn from his mistakes. He learned what do, what not do. I mean, he could be better under Kalen DeBoer. I mean, I know some people were saying, oh, he's going to be like Michael Penix. I mean, that'd be a huge comparison. But, Orji, he'll do fantastic in 2024. I think he'll do all right.
We have anointed the number 62% completion. You've heard that over and over on Michigan Wolverines Live. That's our number. That if Alex Orji can get to 62%, which for reference, Cade McNamara had 64%. If Alex Orji can get to 62% and factoring in his running ability, then he should be the starting quarterback. And people are saying in chat, yeah, he could get 65%. I think that's very reasonable. I understand he was in the 50s in high school. I get it. People who have studied this stuff will come back and say he was in the 50s in high school. Okay. But he didn't work with Kirk Campbell in high school. The caliber of coaching that you get at a school like a Michigan, like an Ohio State, like one of these top programs, like Alabama, that I think will significantly help him. In the spring game, his passes, once he settled in, looked crisp. He was throwing the short ball really well to Bredesen, who was entirely used as a blocker and a fullback, but he was used in the receiving game a bit in the spring game. So Alex Orji had some successful receptions to him, and even some medium range balls. And if he can do that in a big game, that's really all you need. I don't know if he has Jalen Milroe's ability to throw the occasional like perfect deep shot. I don't know if he has that, because Jalen Milroe had a couple of those deep passes that won games that they probably shouldn't have won. Anything else for us, Jackson? We got a couple more callers lined up here.
Oh, that's about all. But come on in, callers, and talk to John and what's your name again?
Cliff,
come on in and talk to John and Cliff right here on the Michigan Call-In Show. And if you love top-notch quality involving Michigan football, come on in to Michigan Football at the Voice of College Football, and let's help this channel get that 10,000 subs.
10,000.
Let's do it.
10K.
10,000. I'd just be happy. Let's try to beat Ohio State's number, and then we'll get to 10,000. But I love it. I love the ambition there. Thanks, Jackson,
I think
for
the
coming
Michigan Ohio State race to 10,000 subs. It'll be like Lightning McQueen with the tongue. It'll be at the finish line.
Ka-chow!
Oh my God.
There we go. Well, y'all have an awesome night and have an awesome rest of the show. And y'all stay safe, stay cool, stay away from that heat.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Jackson.
Take care, Jackson.
Those of you who are just joining us, we are. I'm not TJ. My name's John Diadamo, and I'm your host, your fill-in host tonight. Here with Cliff Richardson, who hosts Point a Minute on Michigan Football, the voice of college football, and the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show. Couple of quick reminders as we hit kind of the midpoint here. Please hit that like button, subscribe, share with a friend. It just takes a second. If you appreciate the content that all of us are putting out there, including Cliff and Mac, please consider doing that. We're really trying to hit another gear, bring in quality guests. We had Steve Dace with Mark the other day. We had Micah Kaapana on Tuesday night. I mean, just this week have had some really quality content. So, if you want to be notified when that content goes live, hit the subscribe, hit the bell, and remember, you're also helping beat Ohio State if you do that, because we get closer to catching up to them. So that's what you can do to beat Ohio State today, is subscribe to the Voice of College Football, and even just share this YouTube link out with a friend. And finally, my last thing, and then we can go to the next call, is our YouTube memberships. So we now have the ability to support the channel with YouTube membership starting as low as just $2.99. Leaders and best tier is $2.99. Then we go up to those who stay at $4.99. So thank you to the people who are at those levels. And then if you really want to support us, you really want to kick it up that extra notch, we do have a higher level tier called the Connor Stallions Espionage Team for $9.99. So go ahead and support us in that way, and we would really appreciate that. And with all that said, Cliff, I think it's time to bring on the Bull Will Win. Do you have a comment? Or
I was going to say, Borg Warner there has a good idea. He says maybe a show from the Big House this fall. So there's another one. We can all get together and tailgate over there in Pioneer High School and do a show from the Big House.
So we almost did. So if I don't know who was watching, but back in 2022, we did do a show from the car nearby the Big House with our hosts at the time. I was also there, funny enough, to support the team for that game, and I was thinking, did I just fly from Florida to Michigan to watch us lose to Illinois? But luckily, Jake Moody saved the day there at the end.
Saved the day many times, yeah.
Good Lord. But yeah, no, that's a great idea. And by the way, at the $9.99 tier, you do have the ability to contribute topic and content suggestions and ideas that we will most likely use on air. So at that tier, that's where you could really contribute ideas to the show, and we will put them in where it makes sense in the run-throughs and in the outlines to talk about on air as one of our anchor topics. So that's one of the key offerings from that tier. Corey is correct. JJ didn't look good in the spring game. You are absolutely correct. He wasn't in the game for that long. He did have a good drive before he got taken out, though. He did. So Alex Orji did the same thing. He started rusty, and then over time he improved. So I'm with you there, Corey. Okay. And Borge says, love the Star Wars posters. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm with you. You got, looks like all three of the originals.
The Return of the Jedi there actually is an original poster from 1983. The other two, I bought it online somewhere. But yeah, I used to have the originals of the Star Wars and Empire, but I've lost them. It's been too long.
So the force is with Cliff tonight, and so we're gonna. With all that said, we're gonna bring on the Bull. The Bull will win. Thanks for calling in to the call-in show here. Go Blue.
No problem. Go Blue, guys. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
That's right. Yeah, I got a few questions, I guess,
Yeah.
and statements and stuff like that. A few things just want to knock out of the way. One, smash numbers. Ferris Khan. The video was 7 minutes. I really wanted a lot more numbers. He went through some stuff. He went through some slides and stuff. Now I was listening / watching, and I was like, man, I need more numbers. I need more things. Like, I know it's 7 minutes. I was like, I really wanted like 20 to 30 minutes, and I wanted him to break it down. Like, okay, Michigan's here at 44% or whatever. I just wanted more. I wanted more, Ferris. I
Okay.
need the analytics to
The
come
people are asking for more Ferris. So
More
That's
Ferris.
right.
More Ferris.
That's right, Ferris. Ferris, I need more numbers out of you, my man. Like, you do the numbers, but I need you to vocalize them. That's all. That's all I want.
So wait a
You
minute.
know.
You just want Ferris to do a show where he just goes 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, no, like he had all these slides and then like rankings and graphs and all that stuff, and I was like, okay, I mean, I get maybe it's part, but if it's, I want to hear it too. That's all I'm saying. I just want to hear him. Okay, Michigan's here first at 44%, and everything like that. Honestly, it went by so fast because it's only 7-minute video. I was like, what? Wait, it doesn't go for like 20 minutes or something? Like, I want more fair.
well, so I'm sure Ferris will he'll take that under advisement and see what other numbers he can give us for future weeks. But what else do you have for us, Bull?
Yeah, no. So, real quick, I guess to piggyback off of yesterday's show with Steve Dace and talking about which they talked near the end there about TV contracts and stuff like that. I know I've talked about it before, and even even Steve was mentioning it, like he finds it rather disturbing, or not disturbing, but rather crazy that Indiana gets this large chunk of money, which is more than any other SEC team has, right? And it's Indiana, right? Or it's Purdue or whatever. And it's just like,
Well, that's how they negotiated the deal.
I know it frustrates me so much. I really want to take it should be 50% of that money should be split between us and Ohio State, and another 50 can be split amongst the rest, especially not now, but because it's growing. But that's even bigger money, I guess.
I would expect the next SEC media deal to jump up by this last deal was negotiated a while back, whereas the Big Ten one was done a lot more recently. I would expect that the SEC numbers are going to go up.
Yeah, that is true. I just and what's crazy, these contracts are so long, because I think Big Ten one was signed in 22 and goes for like 8 years, I believe. And
sounds right.
That's such a long time. Like, so much.
I don't have it on the top of my fingertips, but that sounds right.
Yeah. But it's such a long time to take risks and to obviously it's a little different now because of Oregon and USC, I guess, and that also could help carry the conference, but it doesn't sound right to me. But it is what it is. It's I guess this sort of segue into the whole recruiting aspect of things that I know TJ talked about it last time about it. He's going to wait and see. I don't know. My outlook on it, I feel like, I know I talked last time about culture and stuff, but maybe I think the money thing doesn't help us, paying for some of these some of these recruits, not giving them some money, as well as the development side of things. I feel like because we develop things so well, people are like, well, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. And I'm like, well, let's be honest here. We're also taking chances on developing these players, right? We're hoping they, one, don't transfer out, and two, they do develop. Which is the lower 4 stars to 3 stars, right? Where you're trying to get the weight on these guys, you're trying to get these kids faster and quicker, and things like that. I think the financial side of things is huge to that aspect, right? Where that's great. We can develop people that are just willing to come here, not for a lot of money, but at some point, I think you've even said it yourself, John, that we won't really know for maybe a couple years to come, but it could bite us in the butt, right?
Well, look, I mean, I think that schools that go like a Texas A&M or a Miami that take that approach, you saw the results of what happened. They went 7-5. They 7-5, and then I forget the score after that. But they fired their head coach. They tried Bobby Petrino. It's an OC for a year. Tried that out. That didn't help things. But they had that approach of they had a very NIL-friendly athletic director who's now at Ohio State. So, they did find lots of ways to financially, incentivize with sponsorship deals, ad deals, things like that. So that's the one extreme, right? That's the Texas A&M, which is, if you don't believe me, check YouTube. There's a clip where they were saying of how much money, or like, you're going to get paid, see all these names, they're all going to be paying you. It was a quote similar to that on YouTube. You can listen in. It was put on video. But yeah, I think at this point we're kind of trying to hedge our bet a little, right? Because the NCAA investigation number 2, we're still waiting on what that result is going to be. So while there's still a pending punishment, right? I don't even think we've gotten our letter yet for that one.
No.
The letter of it, because there's supposed to be a notice of allegations, and then you go through the process. And there was one for the previous, and then they handed down the negotiated the settlement that they agreed on. Well, we haven't even gotten the letter of notice of allegations yet for the second one. So I think that they're trying to hedge the bet there a little bit. But from what we're understanding, and some of TJ's sources as well, there is money being offered. The difference is that they're not ready yet to maybe hand over, to match a Kentucky. So if Michigan offers a player $100,000 a year, and Kentucky offers the same player $300,000 a year, Michigan is not willing to counter that yet. So they're trying to, I think, thread this middle ground. But I think as long as the nuts and bolts of the strategy stay the same, right? So finding diamonds in the rough, development with Justin Tress and their nutrition program, and then try shooting for the stars, obviously, when you can. But finding players in the transfer portal, like a Coastal Carolina player, like a Josiah Stewart, who, if not for his play, maybe Michigan doesn't beat Alabama. So it's got. I think they've got to kind of find I think they're still figuring out the right mix for the recruiting process. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think you got to. I'm all for development. I don't know. Honestly, the whole. What really rubbed me the wrong way was seeing that the Davidson running back, right, the 4/5-star kid out of California, potentially going to Ohio State, and I was just like, dude, if I have to see one more running back go to this godforsaken school, I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna lose my mind. Like, why are we going there? Like, I'm just in my head. I'm like, are y'all special or something? Like, why are we going here? They're gonna throw the
Well,
ball. It makes.
yeah. They did just sign Bo Jackson, which that one definitely hurt a little because he did make some noise for a bit there that Michigan was in the mix.
Yeah.
That would have been quite the coup
Yeah.
for Michigan to get Bo Jackson, but I think it's still early. I do to evaluate the running back, Tony Alford, the running backs coach.
Yeah, and about that,
But
in hearing all the people, especially, I don't know why I get the Buckeye scoop on my Twitter feed. I don't know how that happens, but it does. And so I get to hear them, talk like, "Oh, thanks for taking him off our hands," stuff like that. I'm like, this is two different places, right? I'm pretty sure Tony Alford, even though he had the rap of getting the people to visit but not sealing the deal, I totally get that. But I've always felt, obviously, Ohio State has had the money to probably give recruits, obviously, for their higher classes, I feel like. And here in Michigan, we don't do that. So he can still get those visits, right? He can still get the people in the door, just like at Ohio State. I just think it's now harder for him to seal the deal with Michigan now because I know people have said, "Oh, he's behind stuff." Not really. He's he still scouts his. He's been in this for a long time, right? And I just feel like Michigan's probably not giving him the resources that he would probably like, to maybe get to seal the deal possibly. Still young, like you said, but you know, I I feel like he's getting a bad rap, and it's just a beginning, right? It's just the start.
yeah, it's true. I think we all need to remember what would happen if Sharon Moore hadn't been the head coach. If Sharon Moore hadn't been the head coach, you're looking at a wholesale change in players, in culture, in coaching staff. So I think that given the situation that we were in when Jim Harbaugh decided to go to the Chargers, which we had a whole show about who we thought was to blame for that, and you can go back and we definitely aired our grievances on that recently because of the news that came out. But at the end of the day, Sharon Moore, I do think we need to start seeing some ground made up here, June, July, August. And then I think we're going to hopefully know a lot more by August in where we're at. Because we still got a lot of official visits to come.
Well, that's why I think the transition from Harbaugh to Moore is a lot more like Schembechler to Moeller than it is Carr to Rodriguez. You don't have a wholesale transition. You've got guys who are developed under
analogy.
Harbaugh and brought him up. So there might be a little bit of a hiccup there, but I think it's going to be made up really fast.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just obviously a little bit behind on the recruiting 8-ball, right, with everything that happened in January, February, March, where that's a lot of recruiting time trying to start the class and try to get those relationships going. So I do like what Lou Esposito is doing. He's I don't know where he just came out of left field. Is like guns ablazing, like, dude, we're doing this. We're going for this. We're going for that. We're going for this. We're going for that. And I'm like, all right, my man. Okay. If you land him, that's great. But I mean, appreciate you showing up today to work.
Yeah. This is no time to pump the brakes. Hit the gas.
Yeah, he's definitely gassing it, and I'm liking that. And I think what I think people also have to realize in the general scheme of things, because now that I'm getting into this recruiting thing, side of things, that people have to understand that Michigan, it's I know Bryce Underwood's an anomaly, I guess you could say. Well, that and Carr, I guess that one too, but that was different, right? It's a fit, right? So just so happened we had JJ McCarthy, and that's why we didn't get probably Carr and obviously Underwood and stuff. but people got to see things from like a state to state basis, right? Where it sucked we lost Bo Jackson, but at the same time, he was from Cleveland, Ohio, and Ohio State has pretty good ties with Cleveland. So it's very hard to pull people out of that state if they're,
Mm-hmm.
5 very high 4-stars, right? So I think people have to see that as well. When you see these names, you got to see almost where they're coming from, right? If they're high in their state, well, I'm pretty sure the schools around that state or the state itself have probably a better shot of possibly getting that kid than we do, right? So, there's not too many 5-star quarterbacks that come through here or quarterbacks and all that stuff. So when they do come up, I think, yeah, we definitely did drop the ball in Bryce. Honestly, even though that's a pretty huge ask, like you said, for what he wanted, it's pretty big. But I think, like Ohio State has stated, keeping the top talent. Obviously, they lost the running back Marshall.
Jordan
to
Marshall,
us.
yeah.
Yeah, to us. So that was huge, right? But it's not going to happen all the time, and I think people need to realize we need to seal up our state as much as we can. And with these other kids, part of it could also be, the money aspect of things. Like if we're trying to get people out of Texas or Florida or Illinois or the Midwest, possible money might be in play here, right? Because we're trying to pull them out of some place that maybe they're heavily recruited in just in their area. So, I was bummed out the Bo Jackson thing, but then, after you watch, Menace to Sports, whatever, he'll talk about it. It's like, it's Cleveland, Ohio. It's like, you should get that. Ohio State should get that. It shouldn't really be much of a,
Right.
a huge pull. It's like, it's in your own state and you've always had a good relationship with that city. So I see that, I just wish we had, which makes me think about, I wish we had a better, not relationship, but just a better turnout from Belleville kids. I don't know what's with these kids, but it seems like Bloomfield offers pretty good talent. Cass Tech, good talent, but just Belleville, oof.
Yeah.
Gardner was from Cass Tech, wasn't he? Devin Gardner? I think he was from Cass Tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ralph is making a good point. I mean, anybody in Bryce Underwood's shoes, if they're getting offered the kind of money that LSU did, they would have to heavily consider it. I don't care how rich you are, what your socioeconomic status is. That's a lot of money. And there were perks attached too. There a lot of times some of these schools will offer job opportunities for significant others, for family members, housing for significant others, family members. They just take it very seriously down there.
Yeah, but there was also a poll put out there. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, there was a poll put out there. I don't know if it was by 3 Rivals or something of they were asking recruits, would you take a cheaper rate to go to maybe your home school or in school, whatnot like that, and a lot of them, I think it was a pretty high number. It was like 60% or something, 65% said they would take less money to be in state or whatever like that. Because I feel like at some point it becomes funny money, but at the same time, that is a lot of money, right? That's something. I say drop the ball in the sense like he is a 5-star out of Michigan, right?
Yep.
Ohio State does what they have to do to seal their talent. We have to do what we have to do to seal our talent. I feel like it's because I'm saying it's Ohio State I would say rarely recruits much from Michigan. They may get some, some 4-stars and whatnot from us that are maybe lower, but we try to do our best to seal up our state. And I say drop the ball in that sense. It's like we got to keep the top talent in our state because we don't produce tons of it. It's not like we're Ohio or Florida or Texas, or California. So when these players do cross us, we got to seal it up. We got to
seal it.
Get, the best we can, right? Obviously, I think Bryce is a little different now. That's one. Now with NIL, quarterback, pretty sure if this was 3 years ago, be a different story, right? Possibly. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Ferris, and then we're we'll get to your last point, and then we do have another caller.
Yep.
But don't. Ferris is very true here. There was an Underwood interview, obviously, with On3. Of course, he's not going to say publicly, yes, I did it for the money. Of course not, right? A lot of these players, they get PR training. They go through media training. They're not going to say that. QB development, yeah. I mean, and I actually see. I get it, but I kind of understand what he's coming from. LSU just won the Heisman for their quarterback. Now, is it development as much, considering I believe he was a transfer? How much development can you really get in a short amount of time? But they did win the Heisman, and their offense, I think, is designed in a way to highlight the quarterback more when you compare it with like a Michigan offense where, admittedly, there's more running involved. There's always going to be more running involved than an LSU, a USC, an Ohio State, where they're a little bit more, their pass percentage is just higher.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, Zach Smith talked about it, saying that what his place, or Brian Kelly developed. Honestly, no one besides, like you said, Jane Daniels, which that wasn't him. That was just the system he was in. So even to Notre Dame, to I can't even remember some of the quarterbacks, to even Cincinnati, no. So I was, like you said, quarterback development, quote unquote. Yeah, I don't see that at all.
Well, Bull, we've got two more callers we're going to take, and then we're going to wrap our show up.
Yep.
But Bull, we really appreciate you stopping by. Any final thought for us?
No, I just want everyone, to hit the like button, subscribe, do all that. I'll definitely be subscribing here soon to Leaders and Best. So, you guys put out great content. Yep. And yeah, go blue, everybody. Go blue. Let's go.
Go blue.
Go blue.
Let's defend this championship.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bull.
Before you go to the thanks, Bull. Before you go to the next call, I think the point there too, like I think Moose said in there too, that, we want the guy who's the team, not me. And we're talking about the money and stuff. Definitely we want the team guy. But I think at some point, this is like we were talking about earlier with this whole money and the NIL and the settlement and all that. We're going to have to come to grips with the fact that as much as we want that guy who's the team, if another school offers him $5 million, I mean, God bless him if he doesn't take it, but you can't hardly blame him if he does. And it's just the reality now. And I don't know how that shakes out. I don't know how. I mean, I'm not a recruiter. And I'm not a head coach, so I don't know how these guys are able to convince somebody to go from one school to another. But that's going to be key, is somehow being able to balance the team with somebody just threw $5 million in my face.
Absolutely. So I just put a note in the chat. So we're not taking any additional calls other than the ones that we still have in the queue. So hold your powder till next Thursday with TJ, and come on back, and TJ will be taking you through. But we're going to get to one of our YouTube members, moderator, recruiting expert, helped us with Micah, bring Micah onto the show. We got Moose here.
Moose.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Go blue.
Go blue. Yeah. Just real quick about the Underwood thing. I mean, if you're a kid, you see $5 million staring in the face. I mean, can you blame the kid? I mean, I still don't like it, but it's like, you see $5 million and you're that young. I mean, that's going to sway you to go to another school. I mean, it's not even it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it would be tough to turn down for sure.
Yeah. So John, I want to, if I could get a couple of minutes, I want to talk about OV.
Yeah. Do we lose you? Oh no.
Oh, you can't tell if he's frozen because it's just the avatar.
Yeah. We
Can you
can't.
hear me?
Oh,
Oh,
there he
there we
goes.
go. Good now.
I'm trying to read my notes, but I can't. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we just lost you for like 10, 15 seconds, but now we hear you.
Oh no.
Moose?
Oh boy.
Testing.
Well, okay, so
there we
I
go.
can't do
There
that
you-
apparently. I can't do that
Okay.
apparently. So I know that we
Yeah.
have 4-star running back Jordan Davison coming on June 7th.
Yep.
We have 4-star running back Iverson Howard with OV on the 7th.
Yep.
I believe we have an unofficial visit from Randy. What is his name? Something Marsh is it's something Marsh. He's a wide receiver, 4-star wide receiver, but he's taking an unofficial visit, so it's not being paid for.
Well, here's the ones I have. So I've got Marion Dye, the 4-star edge, who had canceled his visit to Georgia, which is notable because that's not really something that you do if you're planning to go to Georgia. So it seems like he's going on the Michigan official visit. He's not going on the Georgia official visit. So at least he might be narrowing down there. We mentioned Jalen Williams on the show earlier, but he seems very, very likely to be going. Jordan Davison seems like he's going to Ohio State, but I think he's just enjoying his official visits and taking his enjoying his free meals, his free the official visits. You get a pretty nice situation. So they're going to try to turn him, but I don't really see Jordan Davison flipping from Ohio State. And then SJ, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this, but Bishop Gorman's interior O lineman, SJ, going to Miami, it looks like. But I'm sure Micah did his best to make the case for Michigan.
Well, it looks like Michigan. It's between Michigan and Nebraska for him. That's what it looks like. It looks like Nebraska has a slight lead for SJ and Utu now, but that's on the recruiting prediction machine, so that might not be accurate. But but I know that Jalen Williams and Roy Maxwell, they have OVs this weekend, and they're both Maxwell Roy. That's it.
Yeah,
and they're both 100% Bristol to Michigan. So I think Michigan will knock them out from this OV this weekend. They'll get them too. And the other guy was Andrew Marsh. And that wide receiver, he's nearly a 5-star, but he's coming to Michigan for his second unofficial visit, which means that they're not even paying for it. He's paying with his own money. So that's interesting. If he's willing to pay his own money to come to Michigan, that's gotta say something. That's a second visit. So
did you hear anything about Shakai Mills-Knight? Because he came 2 days ago. He had a midweek official.
I haven't heard much about him, to be honest. I know he did come to Michigan, though.
Yeah,
I've seen pictures of him sitting in the seats and all that. Who else?
Let me ask you a question. So the wide receiver situation. I understand that that it seems like the successes are coming from the D line, O line, the lines of scrimmage. I think Michigan will do well. But when you look at the skill position players, who do you think out of all the wide receivers that could come to Michigan, who do you think is the most likely based on the current crop of 2025 kids?
If I had to pick a wide receiver right now, that's pretty much, I wouldn't say a lock, but it's close to a lock. I would say Taz Williams Jr. is probably the first one that comes to mind.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And I also think that Quincy Porter too, the big 6'3" wide receiver. I think he's probably second on my list. I think we still have a good shot with him too.
Yeah, Taz Williams Jr. I've definitely heard some good things there. From a height perspective, could be better. 5'11",
Right.
really could use some more 6'3+ players, but
he's got some size though for 5'11". He's 185, so he's not real small. He's got some bulkiness to him. I think he would be a good slot receiver though, honestly, just watching his tape.
He's making his commitment, it looks like, in July 13th.
There's one guy that I want to get, but I don't think we have much of a chance, and that's Derek Meadows. I know he did have an OV this weekend, and he did say some positive things about Michigan, but I didn't see a change in RPM or anything with him after the OV, so it looks like he might be a lock to Notre Dame, unfortunately.
Oh, jeez. That's really interesting. Notre Dame getting a player.
Yeah, 24/7 Sports has him 100% to Notre Dame.
Yep.
I know Micah's been pushing hard for his guys, though. I know he's working hard to get them there.
He's going to try to get at least one, but
it's
tough with some of this. Yeah, and what's interesting is, like, I get it if it's one of these big SEC schools. I understood with Bryce Underwood and LSU. Notre Dame getting a player that's a 5-star wide receiver, at least in one or two of the outlets. That's notable.
I don't understand. I'm not saying Notre Dame gets scrubs for recruits, but how many Notre Dame is pretty much similar to Michigan, aren't they? They run the ball most of the time. I mean, they might pass a little bit more than we do, but I don't understand how a 5-star wide receiver would want to come to Notre Dame.
Well, Notre Dame has
over Michigan.
Notre Dame has that patented 10-man defense.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, you got to watch out.
You got to watch out for
those
that.
10 defensive guys. They do pack a punch.
Oh yeah.
Mike Fort, friend of the program. We're glad you're here. CJ Carr is the reason. So, like, CJ Carr, was a 5-star quarterback. I see. You're saying that's an example. You're saying that's an example of a recruit that's in the pass game. I thought you were saying CJ Carr's the reason they're committing, or that a 5-star wide receiver would want to commit. But I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and Notre Dame fan Michael was complaining about, well, every time a Notre Dame recruit goes to Notre Dame, they drop a star. I was like, well, welcome to the club, dude. Look at Jaden Davis. He was a 5-star, and now he's a 4-star because he committed to Michigan.
Well, EJ Holland, EJ maintains he defends that decision every chance he gets.
He does not
Anytime
like
he's
him.
on a show.
EJ Holland does not like Jaden Davis.
He says, I call my shots both directions. Sometimes it goes one way and sometimes it goes the other way. But yeah.
Ever since that fallout with Sam Webb, Holland does not like Jaden Davis now.
Well, Jaden Davis can use, Micah Kaapana on Tuesday night show, and thank you for helping us bring him on. He said he used the 3-star rating as a chip on his shoulder big time, and he is using that as motivation to get up at 5-something in the morning and to put in that extra ounce, that extra push every day. So these guys are using it as fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I loved all of Micah's answers on the interview, man. He's definitely a Michigan kid.
Mm-hmm.
I love his motivation. His answer when we asked him, like, does that motivate you? He's like, yeah, it pissed me off. I was like, yeah, I love that. I love that fire out of him, man. I know he's going to be good at Michigan.
My mom, we were at our birthday dinner last night, and she said, because she watched the show, and she said, that Micah, he's a well-behaved young man. And I said, that's the Michigan way. That's what we do.
That's why we're very selective on who we recruit. We want people that fit our system, not people that have high ratings that don't fit the system. That's why you don't see us getting a bunch of 5-stars all the time, because Michigan wants guys that fit their system. And that's why they've been so successful this last few years.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ferris. I appreciate that.
Oh, happy birthday, John.
Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna let you guys go. I know you got another caller, so you got to wrap up. So, go blue.
Go blue.
Go blue, Moose. So that's Moose, who he does so much for the channel. He is always here. He's always supporting. He's contributing financially. He's a YouTube member of the Michigan channel, and was a driving force behind the interview Tuesday. So he really really pays attention to recruiting and gets into the trenches. And we appreciate Moose stopping by and calling the show.
You know what I think is cool too, just to add on to that whole with Micah using his 3-star as motivation. I think that's a life lesson right there. You gotta whatever you're doing, wherever you're at, you want a target out ahead of you. And that's the kind of guys that Michigan is looking for, is those guys who have a target out in front of them, rather than thinking they've arrived, they've got something to shoot for. And in this case, it's something that'll actually motivate them. Just like last year, they were taking on the role of the villain, and that was motivating them to keep winning. And I don't know, it's just a life lesson. I know Bo Schembechler used to say, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. There's no such thing as standing still. So having that target is a motivator to keep moving forward, which is really what I loved about that interview. I loved hearing that kid say that. That was awesome.
Absolutely. So definitely, if you have not watched this interview, I encourage everybody after this show to watch this interview. And also, if our Clemson guys are still running their show, definitely go over and support the Clemson guys. But check out this interview at some point. It is insightful. It gives you an opportunity to look at various aspects of what it's like to actually be a player at the University of Michigan. And so that's the link right there. Definitely check it out when you can, and give it a like, and let's help Micah get some additional exposure, because he deserves it. And I think we're going to watch this space, because I think we're going to see him blow up.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's take our last caller, Cliff. We've got Keith in the house. Keith, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's always good to talk to you guys, and this is my second or third week in a row to close out the show with you guys.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Keith, I have a quick question for you. Is your family in construction at all?
As a matter of fact, many of us are. Yes.
Really? Rebar, a very supportive family.
Yeah. Strong as steel, baby.
There you go.
Yeah. The point I want to make, and I'll try to keep it brief tonight, is when I see Sharon Moore, I get a very much of a feeling of back when I was serving in the United States Marine Corps. You saw these certain individuals that were super hard charging, tough as nails, and they're really going to put you to work, and you're going to sweat blood getting ready to serve with these guys. And I think that is scaring away a good number of soft recruits that pass through the system. And I equivocate the Ben Herbert training to the Marine training is that we that served in the Corps are no more special than any of you guys. If you guys went through the same training that all the rest of us Marines went through, you would be just the toughest fighter as we are. And I think that's working in Michigan's advantage in this current system the last 3 years. Moore got promoted to OC. They brought in Minter and McDonald, and they've got this hardcore training program that's like no other that I can think of right now in major college football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Josh Pate said, I think we're watching like the last great college football team, and use some of that same logic to talk about it.
Yeah. And but I think Moore is going to keep it going, because I just looking at Moore, I see that hardness in him that I see in the very best that we find in Marines. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, for a lot of these recruits we get, like we're chasing some 5-star receiver in 26. I forget his name. But he's got Georgia and Miami and a couple other big schools on his list too. You know, I figure the odds in the best case of us to get those guys is 20%. But when you've got a leader like Sharon Moore, you're going to get the guys that are really going to want to commit to the program, the Mason Grahams and Kenneth Grants and the Rashawn Bennies, and the guys that are really willing to work to be the best and be elite.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And yeah, I mean, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, you know, let's be real. Some NIL was required to keep those players because they were getting offers from some major schools to go over. So Michigan did have to pony up. But I see your point, right? Like they were willing to stay. Yes, there was finances involved, but they were still willing to stay. And they're the type of players that, you know, subscribe to that mentality of those who stay will be champions.
It'll be interesting if we ever find out, you know, that Ohio State offered him $1.75 million, and then Michigan said, "Would you stay for $1 million?" Did they say? Did they say 700,000? Did they say 1.5 million? You know, it'll be interesting to hear if that ever comes out. You know,
I would love to hear it.
Yeah,
yeah.
We'll report on it if we get enough sources that verify it. We'll report it on air.
Yeah. You guys have a lot more inroads than the rest of us, so yeah, it probably comes from you, but a lot of that doesn't come out ever. You know, it's nobody shares the bag information they get when they're playing. Did you guys see the Club Shay Shay with Johnny Manziel?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Not like a lot. I saw him. I saw Manziel. Skip Bayless did a thing with him too. So I've heard like bits and pieces of some of that.
Yeah, I watched the whole. It was a 2-parter. It was like an hour and a half long. So I put it on. That kind of work I can do. I can put things on in the background and listen to it. And he talks about money and bagmen, and he told Texas A&M he would stay for 2 more years if they could come up with 10 million. And that was in what year? But that was and he said all SEC schools, even in that day, had a bagman that was ready to pay their best players.
Yeah, that's what
so
I've been
imagine now. Imagine if a Manziel type player was at a school like that now. Imagine the money that he would be offered to stay. I mean, good Lord.
No kidding. Yeah. And he would push the system too. He'd say 20 million? No, I'm talking more like 30 or 40.
Hey, when you beat Alabama, you get a little bit of street cred there.
Well, that's
I
true.
mean, think about this. Like, other than with Manziel, Kevin Sumlin hasn't really done a lot, right? He had the successful Manziel, year or two that where they did very well. But think about it. That he really helped make Sumlin's career in a lot of ways.
Yeah. When I think about it, I think that Michigan lost 13 players to the draft, but how many of those were
18 players to the draft?
18. Yeah, 18.
No, 18 went to the
Not all of them.
13 were drafted.
Right. Okay. But
Yeah.
5
And
more
then some were signed as UDFAs.
Right.
I don't know what the total number was, but I know we lost at least 13 because they were drafted.
Right.
So, but none of those were, every one of them was a 4-star or lower. And we've got 4 stars to replace all of those. And if our training system keeps up, there's high reasonableness to thinking that our new 4 stars can step up and replace our former 4 stars. We just got to see how good this training really is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's why I call Sharon Moore the developer in chief.
Yeah, and I think that's well said too, but because you've got to figure Sharon Moore being under Harbaugh for, what was it, 3-4 years? Harbaugh is not going to let you. He doesn't let anybody float. I mean, you've got to be producing or you're done. I mean, that was just Harbaugh's nature. So yeah, I think you're right. I think Sharon Moore was not only sort of like thrown into the fire those 3 games at the end of the season, but his entire career at Michigan. You got to be on top of your game, or Harbaugh is just going to get rid of you. So, yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yes, and I think Harbaugh was. I give Harbaugh 40% of the credit for the last 3 years, but I give Moore 30% and Minter McDonald 30%. So I think the strength of our team, because you got to remember, Connor Stallions and Jim Harbaugh were on the staff when we were 2-4, and when we lost. When Jim Harbaugh lost like 5 games in a row to Ohio State. And he had Don Brown and Gaddis as his coordinators.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
And he rode with them, and he rode with them, and he rode with them, and we were all screaming, we need somebody better.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Finally, they got in this, and I think that was part of Harbaugh's thinking why he was ready to leave, is he sees Sharon Moore as possibly a better coach than he is. And so he didn't want Michigan to lose that opportunity, so he should go chase his dream and let Michigan have the first shot at Moore and see if he's really everything that people think he might be.
I mean, that's definitely a possibility. It kind of it all sort of coincided. I mean, Harbaugh wanted to go to the NFL. Sharon Moore wanted to be a head coach.
Yeah.
Maybe they worked that out. You never know.
I'm having trouble. Yeah, I'm having trouble going all the way there.
Yeah.
I mean, based on what we have reported on and what we've read, and understanding that you can't take every article and every report fully, and you've got to look at everything holistically. But it seemed like that Jim Harbaugh wanted to actually potentially stay at Michigan, and Ward Manuel, he did not see as the advocate for him with the regents that he needed. the advocate for him with the NCAA that he thought he needed to stay at Michigan. And I believe that. I do think there's truth to that, because we haven't just heard that from one article, that there were roadblocks along the way to NIL and to other things. And that involved a couple of the regents and Ward.
Right.
And so, there were definitely some factors at play that caused Harbaugh to leave. However, do I think he genuinely believes he left the program in good hands? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know it's stretches because I liked Harbaugh, and I even supported Harbaugh when he was 9-3, 10-2, even 8-4. I was like, that's good enough for Michigan football. We're never going to be able to compete with these big guys. We can't get the 5 stars they get because we don't pay our players. And 5 stars have been paid for the last 30 years. And whoever's got 15 5 stars on their team, they're paying them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was happy with Harbaugh as our coach. I just happen to be a minority of just a few right now that might be even happier with Moore as our coach. We'll see as we go along.
Well, we definitely have some track record here with Moore already with those last 3 games. So
sure,
I'm excited to see him coach.
And he beat Bowling Green too. Don't forget about that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Hey, you gotta put that right on the top of the trophy case, okay?
Yeah.
Didn't Jack Harbaugh get like half a win in there too?
Yeah.
So
did
Jack Harbaugh
Mike
was
Hart?
honorary associate or assistant head coach for half a game, or something like that.
Yeah, it was him and Mike Hart and Jesse Minter, I think, all got shots at it.
Yeah. So it was it was an eventful year. Sure was, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would like it to be less eventful in some aspects.
I agree, but it's not up to us. It's the NCAA. I mean, could you believe
I know.
that they dropped those formal charges on National Signing Day?
Oh yeah, that was
Couldn't do it a month before or a month after, could they?
Some of the timing felt a little vindictive.
Malicious, I would say.
The same thing with what Tony Petitti, the way that he instituted that punishment while Sharon Moore was on an airplane, and essentially bailed on the meeting that they were supposed to have to discuss it.
And there was no formality to those charges. Those were all informal, undocumented charges to that point. All hearsay. And he put this 3-game suspension on a playoff-bound team with not even charges filed to begin researching.
And then Michigan won anyway.
That's right.
So that's how good that team was, because that I can think on one hand the amount of teams in the last decade that could have done that.
Right. Did you hear about that Herbert drill where they chained a bunch of heavy dumbbells together between like 50 and 200-pound dumbbells, and they chained them together, and the players all had to run up to it, pick up these dumbbells after walking through a cold tub in the middle of February. And the offensive lineman had to get with the backs and say, okay, we'll carry this part of the chain because it's heavy. And I mean, it really built this teamwork and this leadership in the players. And they're very militaristic things like we did in the Corps. And it built up leadership and teamwork in the team so that when they stripped our coach from us, I mean, our players could basically go on autopilot because of guys like Harbaugh, Moore, and Herbert.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, Keith, how much percentage do you give Ben Herbert for the success? Because you mentioned everybody else, but Ben Herbert was one of the primary points of contact for everybody on that football team. And the amount of strength, what he did to that program from a culture, strength and conditioning perspective, which you just outlined, is a great example of how he instilled the toughness that Michigan needed to overtake some of the best teams in the country in the trenches.
When we were outnumbered 10-1 in 5 stars.
Yeah.
Yep. And I almost have a different track of responsibility and respect and for Herbert and his strength and conditioning, because really Herbert's almost 100% responsible, because without a strength and conditioned football team, you're nothing. In fact, Nebraska in the 90s, I don't know how many people know this, but the reason Osborne dominated so much in the 90s and O's was they were the first ones to have a full-time strength and conditioning coach. And so they were in the fourth quarter, they were killing their opponents because they were the first ones that considered it a professional position. To that point, everybody was a volunteer that did it.
Yeah, Moose is sharing his so he's got Harbaugh, Herbert, and Minner. Well, but then where's Sharon Moore in that one? So all I'm saying is let's have Harbaugh in there, Herbert, Minner, and Sharon Moore, all with some type of percentage. Because I think they all were tremendous pieces. And Micah on the show on Tuesday night, he did mention that he didn't have as much of a relationship with Ben Herbert, but he said Justin Tress has really been stepping up into his role and has been kind of emulating what Herbert was doing. He definitely seemed like they were putting him through the ringer in the workouts. So it seems like he's continuing that mentality.
The players in the spring game looked like they were still being trained by Ben Herbert to me. I mean, that hitting was intense in that spring game.
For a spring game, especially. Some of those teams were playing, some of those schools were playing two-hand touch out there.
Ohio.
Like a certain, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I give them a different, the strength and conditioning is in its own way 100% responsible for, it's kind of like a pass-fail thing, is that you either have a guy that's doing the job and a guy that's not. And the guys at Georgia and Bama and Ohio State, they're all doing their job too. They're getting their guys strong and conditioned. The question is, are they building the leadership in the teamwork in the players as they go along? Because if you have 15 5-stars on a team that are working together and able to self-lead when required, you should never lose to a team that only has 2 5-stars, right?
That would be the theory, yeah. Logically, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we did something better than the teams that were way more talented than we were.
Yeah, I think the only team that at times has done it better consistently the last 3 years is Georgia. That's the only team I can think of that has had the physicality mixed with a higher octane pass approach sometimes than Michigan. That's it. That's the list as far as I'm concerned. Alabama, if you looked at their previous teams, but Alabama, even Nick Saban said himself that he was having more trouble recruiting the last few years because of NIL. He said it He was pretty vocal the last couple of months about how NIL impacted his team the last few years. So I'd say I put the list at literally Georgia, who's done both. They've done the Michigan thing and they've done the Ohio State thing and the USC thing of the pass approach to kind of blend it together. And I would like to see Michigan do that a little bit more on the pass game, like Georgia. If I had one criticism right now, if I had to pick just one, it would be, I'd like that percentage to go up a little bit and keep defenses honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It sounds right. You open a big can of words when you start talking about Georgia, and I have some pretty strong opinions on Georgia. But let's do that next week or the week after, because you guys want to go home tonight.
But tune in next Thursday when Keith will give his opinions about Georgia. So everybody's going to be bookmarking and getting and circling that on their calendar for next week.
Hey, TJ cut me for the short this week. I heard myself on the short this week. It was only 12 minutes long, and I think I had 10 minutes of it. So yeah, we'll go over that next week or the week after.
Absolutely. Well, Keith, we really appreciate you supporting the show, stopping by, and just being a part of this.
Yeah, go blue, baby.
Go blue.
Go blue.
All right. Well,
you have to appreciate
show there.
Reinforcement.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was that nice little construction jokes. We got to add that to the bingo card now. 1984 construction jokes. We got to just keep that thing going. Cliff, I'm glad you could stop by tonight. I know it was a bit we were a bit scrambling there. Luckily,
just at the last second,
Florida storm stayed away.
Yeah, you seem to be doing okay there.
Seem to be doing okay. Didn't get cut off, as has sometimes happened on air when the Florida storms have hit. So lucky there. Cliff, as we do with everybody, we want to give you a final thought, and also, where can people find you?
Well, I just wanted to say this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I would love to come back on again sometime. We'll have to have you guys back on our show, especially as we get closer to the season here. Love to talk about how the recruiting and all that is coming together. But this is great stuff. You guys are doing great things here at Michigan Football, Voice of College Football. I really love the way it's sort of turning into its own like network channel, and you've got your different shows at different times a day. That's really cool. Mm-hmm. At any rate, you can find me. We do our Point a Minute show. Mac and I do. It's usually a 10 to 15 minute pre-recorded piece that we do for the Michigan Football channel here. And TJ releases it 11 a.m. on Tuesday. And then Mac and I also do the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show live stream, which is Monday nights at 8 a.m. on it's youtube.com/@teamrivalry. And you can catch us there. You can join us in the chat, give your opinions. We like to pick topics and give our opinions, and then we ask you guys to give yours. You can find me on Twitter at Dog Team Rivalry, DAWG Team Rivalry. I'm not real active on social media because, to be honest, I don't get it. But but I am there once in a while just to make jokes and have fun and talk some football. So love to see you guys out there. And I think that's about it. Yeah, why is Ryan Day in the hot seat? That's a fun one to talk about.
Check that video out. Yeah, Ryan Day. Why is he? Yep. Why is he on the hot seat? You can find out in just 10 minutes.
Yep. I remember we had Big Ten Ted on our show a couple of weeks ago, and it was the part of this topic came up too, and he was like, "Why are we talking about this? He's 56-8, but man, if he loses to Michigan again this year, he's done." I don't think you get 4 years in a row. And the pressure that's on him right now, he seems like, I don't know, he's starting to look more and more like James Franklin when it comes to pressure, that he just can't handle it. But anyway, topics for another time.
So check out, Point a Minute. It's been a hot topic because I did a show with Justin Adams and JR, and who does the Buckeye, the huddles and those shows, and JR's rankings, and we had a couple of coaches on the hot seat, but they were at like the bottom. Like PJ Fleck we put on the hot seat. He's like we ranked him like lowest of all the coaches, or down there really low. Ryan Day we ranked number 1, and we still put him on the hot seat. We ranked him the number 1 coach because we took Harbaugh off because he had left at that point. But we still had him on the hot seat because if he loses to Michigan again, that might be it.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to be happy with him. I mean, maybe he's the best coach ever to be on a hot seat, because it doesn't make sense. He shouldn't be. They should be. He should be just fine. But it's that rivalry, and it's still going to be that rivalry. And if he keeps losing to Michigan, he's just done. I should add too. This Monday night, this very coming Monday, we're actually going to have Buckeyes Battle Cry on our show. He's going to come on. We're actually going to talk about, he did a video talking about Harbaugh used Michigan to get to the NFL. And I have a different opinion on that. And that's what we're going to talk about on Monday night. Justin Adams is actually going to be on our show in 2 weeks, and we're going to talk some Nebraska ball.
Great guy. Yeah, it sounds like some good shows then. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, Cliff, again, appreciate you being part of this tonight. And we'll get back to your regularly scheduled programming next week with Michigan Wolverines live Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern with me, and then Thursday the call-in show with TJ, also at 8 p.m. Eastern. Cliff, thank you so much for stopping by. Go Blue, man.
Go Blue. Thank you very much for having me. See you guys soon.
Thanks, Cliff. Yeah. Okay. Quick housekeeping before we wrap up here. We do want to remind everybody that we have the YouTube membership, a new way to support Voice of College Football Michigan channel. I'd like to see somebody hit that join button today and support what we do here. So who's going to be the one to hit the join button? We'll find out. There's the link. Go ahead and do it. If not, you'll have the opportunity to throughout this week, and we'll send some reminders. But if you do, then you get access to the emojis, which include the last 3 years of Ohio State victories. There's an emoji on with the block M. There's an emoji with the winged helmet. There's a Go Blue emoji, and there's a Connor Stallions emoji. ZZM here is commenting, and he is a YouTube member. Who's a member of our Those Who Stay Will Be Champions tier. Thanks to Moose for gifting that. So he is one of our YouTube members. And I actually agree with this. I think it played a role. Cutting his pay did play a role in what happened. But I think that was one puzzle piece. And there's the rest of the puzzle that we discussed with respect to maybe not having the right advocate at athletic director to go up with the Board of Regents, the NCAA, and all of the things. All right. In addition to that, when you're doing your shopping on Amazon, as many of us do from time to time, support Mark Rogers, support Voice of College Football. Click the Amazon link in the description section of any of the Voice of College Football videos around our network, and you can use Mark's Amazon link. Then Mark Rogers gets a couple of bucks. We continue to press on here. We continue to keep the train rolling. If you're already planning to use Amazon and shop on Amazon, you might as well click the Voice of College Football Amazon link. We have a merch store, so check that out. It's almost Father's Day, so get a gift for the college football fan in your life with the Voice of College Football merch store. Here's the link. Check that out. And with that, The next show that we're going to do, that's a live stream, we will, of course, have clips of the various shows, Smash the Numbers. You can catch the point a minute videos that Cliff and Mac, they put together. But the next live show, unless there's an emergency, there's breaking news, we do reserve the right to go live for an emergency episode if something big happens. But the next show on the schedule is going to be Michigan Wolverines Live with myself and TJ, Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Any final thoughts from the chat? We always give a final thought, and where can people find you? Let's see. Final thought here. Thank you. Buy some Michigan gear. You can go to the specific Michigan section of that merch store to check out the Michigan gear. Absolutely. Get dominated in the trenches. I'm assuming you're talking about Oregon. Yeah, you're talking about Oregon. Yep. I think Oregon's defense is solid. I think they have some good guys there. Offensively, losing Bo Nix, I think that's going to hit. I understand that they replaced him with a solid quarterback, Dylan Gabriel. But still, they are losing some talent for sure. And I believe you're going to see a very similar game like you saw when Michigan played Washington. I think you're going to see a similar game, but a closer game because Michigan no longer has J.J. McCarthy or Blake Corum, and that will, I think, impact some of these games. So you can't quite directly compare Michigan versus Oregon to Michigan versus Washington in the Natty, but I do think Michigan is going to be able to come out on top. Mello, of course, on the Buckeye side of the fence, is going for Oregon. We've got Jackson Johnson. That's right. Tell your friends, your family, your frenemies, and the cashiers at Publix about Michigan football at the voice of college football. Folks, we're blowing up here. Ferris said it right here. We have blasted by 7,000. We are catching up little by little to Ohio State. Please, if you do nothing else to support, hit that like button. It's free. And hit the subscribe button. It's also free. Hit the bell to get notified when we're live. And especially now with the amount of content we're putting out there, the cool thing about hitting the bell, and if you hit all on the bell, you're going to get a notification when it's 30 minutes till the show time too. So not only do you get a notification when it's live, you get a notification for the 30 minutes before the show goes live. So you get a couple of reminders to check out the show. So thank you for that, Ferris. Thanks for the happy birthdays. Thank you for that. Dante Moore looked better than Gabriel. Yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe by the end of the year, flips around. I think last year he looked more like Dante less than Dante Moore. Was definitely at UCLA more like Dante less. But hey, anything is possible in college football. That's what I believe. All right. I think we're good to go now. So we'll see you on Tuesday night for Michigan Wolverines Live. Hit the like button on your way out. Thanks again to Cliff for stopping by and being a guest. Thank you to all of our callers. Thank you to the people who were on chat and who carved out part of their night to hang out with us. Until next time, this is John D'Adamo saying, go blue. See you around.